do you say your last name? Zarycka. Maryanne Zarycka, Theosophical Society.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for asking me to speak and share my ideas on how the Brotherhood, a Nucleus, and Healing function. There's so many quotes and so much literature. I'm a very good student, and so I read everything. That it would take, I would be up here for 2 hours talking about everything that excited me. It's such a passion, and healing the planet is so dear to my heart. It's been actually my mantra for 20 years before I even started studying Theosophy. It was hard to narrow down to 20 minutes. Thank you for the extra 5 I might have, unless Johanna just took that one up for me. I am looking forward to discussing the topics in length in our groups. Yesterday we had a wonderful group and a lot of ideas that came from that. So the next 3 groups that I get to participate in, it's going to be exciting for me to be able to expound on some of the ideas. I see the functioning in 3 phases. And my teachings are very simple. My learnings are very simple at this point. Some of the more in-depth and technical languages, I'm in awe with some of your knowledge. And so I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. But I see the first is starting with ourselves as a functioning and a primary nucleus. The second, I see that once we've gotten to a point where we're feeling comfortable with ourselves and healing ourselves and becoming more whole, then we start to want to, at least I do, to reach out to other people, other like-minded souls. And so it goes from me to other like-minded souls, like you in this room. And then the third is multiplying our efforts and using the ripple effect and encouraging and inspiring other people to do the same. That would be the healing force, and that blanket covering the whole world eventually with a blanket of healing. Madame Blavatsky, as I go through all of the writings, and not only Madame Blavatsky, but specifically she uses words like work and action. We must work. There's action, 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 and work, work, work. And so that's a little bit about what my talk is going to be about, is what can we do? How do we function in order to do this, create a healing force? How do we move? What action do we take? What kind of work needs to be done? If we're to be successful and to be a functioning brotherhood, we must be willing to get up off of our seats and to work. Even if we would rather be doing something else, even if it's uncomfortable, we must be able to put forth some effort into our mission. And we must be willing to take the action and do the work. One of my favorite books is At the Feet of the Master. It's simple. I can understand it. And when my hectic, crazy life gets too much for my brain, I can go back to At the Feet of the Master, because it's very simple, clear instructions. And in the foreword, just in the foreword, he says, to look at food and say that it is good will not satisfy a starving man. He must put forth his hand and eat. So I think we must put forth efforts as well. And what kind of efforts do we need to put forth? Starting with ourselves, Madame Blavatsky, she gives us specific instructions. She says we need to obtain knowledge and make it available to everyone. She says we must discover the laws that govern nature and ourselves. And we also must have absolute unselfishness and unlimited devotion to the interest of others. There's much work that we must do as we become a healing force in our world. Mr. Judge also adds, there is first our work, our own work in ourselves, each one. He talks about the enlightenment of oneself for the good of others by unselfish acts by kind thoughts, by detaching our minds from the allurements of the world. So working on ourselves first means finding the truth and gaining knowledge through study, through conversations like our study circles, so that we can broaden our perspectives, and connection with others to teach us more about ourselves. We have to be aware of our prejudices, and we have to learn to work with other people. When I'm sitting at home in my little hill on my house by myself with my dogs, I can be very spiritual. But when I go down from the hill and I go into the city, just getting on the freeway to get to the city, all of a sudden my spirituality changes and I learn things about myself. And I learn when I'm sitting in a room full of people or a group, or I go to work and I have to deal with other people. I learn a lot about my judgments. I think on my little hill, sitting in my little Zen moment up there, that I'm very spiritual. But so in order for me to learn about my deficiencies and the areas that I need to work on for me as a nucleus, I need to get out there with you. And I need to work with you. And that's how I learn more about me. We also need to use our meditation and other spiritual means, whatever works for you, to realize our divine self and our interconnectedness with everyone. I had trouble with a lady, I do caregiving, and I have a lady who's very angry, very bitter, she's in a lot of pain, and she snaps out, she bites a lot. She'll get angry and she'll bite. And I deal with her 3 or 4 times a week. And one time I wanted to bite back. You know, I wanted to, but I know as a student of Theosophy that love, compassion, understanding, it's so core for me. And I was so disturbed by my wanting to bite back. And so I did a meditation and a prayer one morning before I had to go to work. And I usually ask the question, and then I get real quiet. And I try to listen for an answer. And sometimes I hear things, I don't know about you, it's like hearing voices. Sometimes I hear things that didn't really come from me. And I know somewhere deep down inside it did come from me. And I asked, please show me something, give me a message, give me a sign, something that will help me to deal with this woman that I'm about to go see, so that I can love her and care for her. And I got words, just a few words, but they were so profound. And I heard, we are all of them. We are all of them. And it brought tears to my eyes, because when I thought that I am her, she is me. We are all of them. And I never looked at her the same again. Every time she snapped at me or she was upset with me, I just thought that could be me. That could be me. And I think sometimes we lose that connection. Madame Blavatsky talked to us about working on ourselves and then how it can expand out. And she said the multiplication of multiple centers should be a foremost consideration in your minds. And each man should strive to be a center of working himself. When his inner development has reached a certain point, he will naturally draw those with whom he is in contact under the same influence. A nucleus will be formed, round which other people will gather, forming a center from which information and spiritual influences radiate, and towards which higher influences are directed. Once we have made a commitment to continue working on ourselves, it's important for us to get out and connect with others. And we don't have to be perfect Zen, spiritual, flying away into the openness. We can just make a start, just a start on ourselves. And we talked about that a little in our group yesterday, that we just have to start. before we can actually get out and start working with others and feeling that compassion and love for others. And when we do connect with others, that's a test. That's our test to see where we're at. You are my spiritual barometer. We have to remove judgment of others, and opening our hearts to a true sense of brotherhood will allow us to function as a nucleus. We must teach ourselves to be accepting and tolerant of others. We have to be consciously aware. Sometimes I get so busy in my day, I'm not conscious of every thought and decision and action and word that comes out of my mouth. So I have to really practice, and I have to be absolutely conscious and aware of myself. Dora Kuntz, I don't know if you're familiar with Dora Kuntz. She did a lot of work in therapeutic touch, which I'm very interested in. And so I listened to lots of her lectures, and I love the way she talks, and she's just so cute. She just has the cutest little giggle. Anyway, in 1955, she said, brotherhood is something we should live instead of talk about it. She said, the brotherhood is a testing ground, and it's a place to let ourselves grow, to learn and get along with one another, whether we like one another or not. And you must be willing to have differences of opinion. And that's okay. You know, we have differences of opinion. We're human at this point. And that's okay. We must also pay attention to our own faults rather than the faults of others. I was taught a long time ago, when I have a finger pointing at you, I have 3 fingers pointing back at me. And so Mr. Judge explains it. He says that we have to watch for personal frictions. We need to watch and avoid, he says. That friction of personality is inevitable, and if each one learns the great give and take and looks not for the faults of others, but for the fault that he sees in himself, then great progress can be made. The Theosophical groups are the pilot program. We're the testing ground for universal brotherhood. This room right here is a pilot program. We're the testing ground for universal brotherhood. We must practice on each other. This is a safe place. We are spiritual beings with the same goals, even though we might have different words to express it. So feel free to test and practice on each other for the rest of the weekend. We're like a mini world in here. We're from all over the country and all over the world. And we're a tiny little micro planet in this room. We are living and breathing examples to each other and to the people outside of this room on how people from all over the world, from different streams of theosophy and beliefs, can function together in a unified mission to heal and to elevate our planet. It's wonderful to do research. It's wonderful to read volumes in libraries full of ancient wisdom. But to make this brotherhood function and to create a healing effect on the world, we must go to work. And we must share it with everyone. Did I say everyone? Yeah. We must share it with everyone. We need to find a way to touch every person that we come in contact with, our words, our actions, our courage to discuss the teaching. Even a smile can make a difference. Did you smile and say good morning to everyone besides just the ones wearing the badges today? The people in the restaurants and the hotels and that you passed on the street? Madame Blavatsky said, we should seek to bring some peace on earth to the hearts of those who suffer by lifting for them the corner of the veil which hides from them divine truth. One of the challenges that I have is finding ways to communicate our message in a way that they can understand. Finding the right words that will touch their inner soul. Some of the readings out of the Secret Doctrine or some of the others that are very technical and abstract in a way, when I'm out in the community and I try to talk to people about that, their eyes glaze over and they look at me a little funny and they have no idea what I'm talking about. And so I need to go back to simple. And I need to find words that are going to touch their soul and examples and practical ways that I can explain this teaching so that they go, really? Tell me more, tell me more. So for me, lifting the veil is being able to share the information in a way that they can understand. The Theosophical Order of Service, I got a magazine or a publishing by them, and I saw a line in there that I wanted to share. And they said, we must live the teachings, and in order for it to survive, it must be kept vibrant and fresh. So the teachings relate to what's happening in today's world. I talk to everyone. I talk to people in the grocery stores, in the lines at the bank, the salons, at work, at play. Every now and then, someone gets it. Every now and then, someone gets it, depending on if I can say something that will touch their hearts and their soul. Will everyone get it? No. No, they won't. But the Mahatmas told us to try. Just try. It's okay. And have the courage to talk about, do you realize that we're all one? We're all connected? We are? Tell me more. Or they'll just glaze over and go about their day, right? I started a group online, international, and through a meditation app. It's called the Pearly Gates Group. And I started it last year after the conference in Santa Barbara, which was my first conference with you. And I started with 10 people. And today, or yesterday, or sometime, whatever day it is, I looked and I have over 500 people right now internationally that are tapped into this little group. And I post theosophical messages. And I post messages from other authors. But I use real simple terms, and the group keeps growing. And what I've learned is that the bigger the group gets, then people say, oh, there's 500 people, this must be good. And so they join. And so the bigger that we get, people will see us, and they'll say, this must be good. I think I'll join, because a lot of us are joiners. So how many people do I talk to in a day or a week or a month? 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 people. I don't know. But everywhere I go, I try to find and try to put a little bit of theosophy out there. It's like fishing. Someone talked about fishing the other day, but it's like fishing. And every once in a while, somebody will light up and somebody's eyes will be interested. And then once I got my foot in the door, boy, I'm going. So believing in universal brotherhood is not enough to make it function. We must be passionately dedicated to awakening it in others and ourselves to be a brother. In our group yesterday, we said, what can we do? Make it simple. And we said, be a brother. Be a brother. And we must awaken it in ourselves. And as we awaken it in ourselves, we begin to heal. And as we begin to heal, we can heal others. And the healing happens. And it just keeps expanding. Increasing the numbers of our brothers and sisters worldwide and teaching the principles of Theosophy are the keys to a functioning universal healing force. Madame Blavatsky said, all men becoming brothers and all women becoming sisters, and by all practicing in their daily lives true brotherhood and true sisterhood, is one of the fundamental theosophical principles that every theosophist should be bound not only to teach, but to carry out in his or her individual life. Each one of us must work to spread the message in whatever way we can. Becoming a walking and breathing example of brotherhood and love and keeping Theosophy alive and vibrant is how we will function. Our actions will speak louder than our words. Take a good look at your life and determine what action and what kind of work that you can contribute. Any little amount of action will help, the tiniest bit. Madame Blavatsky stressed active cooperation of every one of its members to consider carefully what possibilities of work are within his power, and then to earnestly set about carrying them into effect. Right thought is a good thing, but thought alone does not count for much unless it's translated into action. Each is able to do something to aid the cause of truth and universal brotherhood. Mr. Judge called us the nucleus from which help might spread to all the people of the day. So the way to spread this healing force is to get up off of our seats and reach out to everyone that we come in contact with, using practical words and concepts that they can understand. So how can we function as a healing force? How about if we eliminated 2/3 of the world's evil? Would that work? Would that be a good start? Madame Blavatsky talks about that. One of the ways is to help the world to understand the laws of karma and nature. How do you teach them that? If I tell them everything you do, think, and say is going to come back at you, that gets their attention. And if we start talking about the benefits and the consequences of obeying these laws, Madame Blavatsky said with a confident conviction that our neighbors will no more work to hurt us than we would think of harming them, 2/3 of the world's evil would vanish into thin air. Imagine that. Another way is to continue working to create a universal brotherhood by our actions and example, by opening our hearts and minds to everyone we come in contact with, and just try. Every person we touch with loving kindness will heal just a tiny bit more. Madame Blavatsky said, if this view of the kinship, the universal brotherhood of all mankind, could gain universal acceptance, the improved sense of moral responsibility would cause most social evils and international asperities to disappear. So how does a nucleus of healing and universal brotherhood function? It starts with us as individuals. We move out to groups like this as nucleus, and I believe that there can be lots of nucleus. I'm one, you're one, this room is one, our cities, our groups at home are one. And if we just, do we have my ripple effect picture? I don't know how to make these things work, but I have a, do you know how to put that on there? Oh, there it is. This is my speech right here. I think in one picture, that's my slide. I think if we start with ourselves and work our way out, that we can heal this planet. I absolutely know it. I'm already doing it. Are you? I'm sure you are. I'm sure there's a lot of you in this room. We're all connected. Madame Blavatsky said, nothing, therefore, can affect one nation, one man, without affecting all other nations and all other men. This is as certain and as obvious as that a stone thrown into a pond will, sooner or later, set in motion every single drop of water therein. Do I have time for a little demonstration? How's my time?
Your time's up, but...
My time's up.
Why don't you...
Someone
how long
said,
will it take?
I'd like to just, you know, I also read, I did a lot of reading, and I learned, do you mind 2 more minutes? Okay. I did a lot of reading, And there's a lot of work is done, not only on the physical plane, but the mental plane, the astral planes, the spiritual planes. And it actually, somewhere in my readings, it said that when we're working on the astral planes or the spiritual planes, that the work is intensified. So, and we do need to work, and we do need to get up off our seats. I had 2 different things I wanted to try, but I think what I'd like to do is put you to work this morning. So I'd like to lead us in a chant, in an Om, to help heal the planet, because that is my mantra. What I'd like you to do is picture the world, our little marble, our little blue marble that's in the middle of the universe and the galaxies, and it just gets bigger and bigger. Picture our little world out in front of you. And if you want, reach out your hands and hold our little world with loving hands and loving care. Now see, some of you aren't going to work. You're not working. And bring the little world to your heart, the little planet. And I'd like to lead us in 2 Oms. And after the second Om, I'm going to continue a chant that the Dalai Lama uses for peace, if that's okay with you. So take a deep breath. You can close your eyes or not. And I'll get us started, and please join in. Please don't make me be the only one up here doing the Om. And we will do 2 Oms for healing the planet. This will be our first piece of work to help this function. So take a deep breath and join me. Om. Om. Chaumbakam ye jamahe Sugandim pushtivardhanan Uvarukamiva bandhanan Mrichor mushyamamrita. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.